Hi, my name is Ryan Barba. I'm a Cornell MBA grad. I worked in MBA admissions for more than 5 years at 2 top programs. And for the past 3 years, I've been an advisor to candidates applying to the top business schools in the world, where I've helped more than 550 candidates earn acceptance into top tier schools. Today, I want to talk to you about the top 6 things that you should be doing before you apply to business school. In my experience, many candidates either don't do some of these things, or they do them too late and end up scrambling in the days before the application deadline, which is the last thing you want to do, right? You don't want to be overstressed when you're trying to finish up those essays and that resume before the application deadline, performing tasks and other things that you should have been doing ahead of time. So I want to walk you through some of the best steps that you ought to be taking as you approach the MBA admissions process. First, make sure you give yourself time to study for the GMAT, right? A lot of people just kind of assume, well, I'm a really good test taker, so I'll give myself a month or two, or maybe I'll take a prep course for a month or two, then I'll be good to go. For some people, that's true. But for other people, it takes a little bit longer than they may have anticipated. So give yourself that extra time to study for the GMAT. I personally had to study for more than 6 months to get to a score that I knew was adequate for a top tier program. So make sure you're giving yourself that time. The good news about the GMAT is that it is a test that most people can study for and do better on, right? My score went up by over 120 points from when I first started to where I ended up just by studying and doing practice tests and things like that. So give yourself that time to study and give yourself extra time just in case it takes a little longer than you planned or maybe anticipated. Second, clarify your brand. Right? My go-to motto as an advisor to candidates applying to business school is don't worry so much about being good enough, but think about how you'll be better than other candidates. Right? A lot of candidates spend a lot of time taking the GMAT 5 or 6 times or taking additional courses to offset that C they got in college, and those are good things to do. But what a lot of people don't do enough of is really think about what are the things that are going to differentiate me as a candidate in the admissions process. Here's what I mean. If you take it from the perspective of a professor in a top MBA program, right? Say you're a professor and you're assigning students to small groups for a small group project in your class, right? They basically want to know, what is it that you will bring to the table that will be a value add to that small group, right? What are the skills, knowledge, expertise, etc. that you bring to the table that maybe nobody else does, right? Are you the healthcare expert that's worked in all 3 areas of healthcare? Are you the guy who can create a whiz-bang financial dashboard in Excel? Are you the guy who is really strategic thinking, who can elevate the depth of the conversation in the small group room? Whatever that might be, get clear on what your brand is. What are the things that you're going to be telling to the admissions committee that will differentiate you from the other candidates? Most people don't do this, right? Most people say, okay, it's time to apply to business school. They read the essays and they just act intuitively and start answering the questions, right? They say, well, this is an easy enough answer. I think I know how to answer this. And they go ahead and just answer it intuitively. Don't do that. Don't be so reactive to what's being asked of you. Yes, of course you have to answer the questions that are asked of you, but go in with a plan. Go in with a 3-part brand. These are the 3 things that I want to communicate through my application that, if I'm able to prove them, will set me apart from all the other candidates applying to these top schools. And as you know, if you're applying to a top program, your competition is pretty fierce. Right? You're literally competing with thousands of other people. So be really clear about how you plan to pitch yourself and plan ahead. Inventory the experiences you've had, the projects you've worked on, what you've done in your community, and how your skills have grown, how your knowledge has grown, how your leadership skills have grown. I teach people all the time how to clearly articulate their brand, and it's a robust exercise. But if you want to do it on your own, start quickly. Like, really think through, how are you going to differentiate yourself and position yourself to the MBA admissions committee to set you apart from the thousands of other applicants who are also vying for your seat in the class. Third, start to show programs that you're interested. Right? This is one that most people know about. It's worth taking a trip to campus for the schools that you want to apply to, especially if you're located on the same continent. Right? Take a trip to campus, take a college tour, sit in an info session by the admissions committee, and if you're there during the academic year, sit in on a class. There's so much value in doing this. First, it's a way for you to kind of gauge whether that program is a fit for you at all. Right? A lot of people just kind of apply based on what they've read online or the fact the school is ranked really highly in the U.S. News and World Report. And that information is valuable for sure, but you have to really assess whether the school is a fit for you, whether it's really a place that you want to spend 2 years of your life. And the only way to really do that is to go and visit campus if you can. There's other benefits to this as well. By networking with members of the admissions committee and other students, you're kind of getting on the school's radar a little bit. And when you apply, they actually do keep track, most schools, of who's taken the time to visit campus. So it shows some genuine interest if you've been on campus to tour the program before you apply and talk about how much you love their school in your essays. And third, it allows you to get more specific in your essays and in your interview responses when you're talking about why you want to go to that school. Right? If you can talk about, well, I really enjoyed my conversation with John Smith when I went and visited campus, who told me XYZ about the program, which was really exciting to me. Or it was really great to sit in on Professor Jones's class, right? And see how he interacted with students and how the case study method worked, or how this method worked in the classroom, how collaborative people were, how smart people were, whatever. Or I really loved the presentation about the Career Management Center, or sitting down with these 3 students for lunch, whatever. Whatever you do on campus when you're there, being able to articulate that and being able to cite specific examples for why you know this program is a really good fit is going to be much more compelling in your application than just saying, well, I really enjoyed watching this webinar, or I really enjoyed reading this on the website, right? If it's impossible for you to get to campus, maybe you're located far away, or you have some other circumstances that prevent you from going there, most of the top programs, if not all the top programs, as you probably know, participate in these traveling MBA forums. There's a few different brands of these forums out there, but it's worth attending these, A, for the informational aspect to learn more about the application process, but B, for the networking aspect. Many of the top schools send members of their admission committee to these programs. So it's an opportunity, if you can't go to campus, to meet a member of the admissions committee, shake their hand, get their business card, shoot them an email after to say thank you and how excited you are about the program. Again, it's kind of an outside way to get on their radar, and especially if you can't get to campus, it's a really good idea to do. So while number 3 is one that I think most people are aware of, number 4 is something that I think very few people do, that I think is a great opportunity for you to differentiate yourself. Right? Once you're clear on your brand, you kind of understand where you're going, you know your story and what you bring to the table, it's worth really looking into your short-term goals. And here's what I mean by that. There's kind of 2 things about this. When you're applying to business school, the admissions committee is going to want to be sure that you are sure about your short-term and really your long-term goal. They want to make sure that you're genuine in where you're going and that you've looked into what that future career holds. They want to know, what is the job that you want coming out of business school? What type of recruitment opportunities are you going to be seeking as an MBA student? Or if you're starting a business, what is that business going to look like, right? They want specifics. It's hard to give those specifics if you haven't done ample research into your short-term goal. So here's what I mean. First, by researching your short-term goal, get a sense of what specific hard and soft skills make somebody successful in that role. Right? So if you're going into consulting or investment banking or corporate finance or social enterprise or entrepreneurship, whatever, just do some research. Get a clear sense of, okay, to be successful in this role, I need to know how to do these 5 things or these 6 things, whatever it might be, and then articulate that. Right? My research has shown me that a successful consultant is really good at project management, negotiation, and breaking problems down into pieces. And then you can kind of show how you've built those skills. Right? So in my career pre-business school, here's how I've developed skills that are relevant toward my short-term goal in consulting or investment banking, whatever. And then you can kind of position an MBA as a bridge, right? But I want to continue to build these specific skills, which I also know are important, and an MBA will help me get there. The second part, outside of just doing your online research, and this is something that very few candidates do, but that will really set you apart, is start to network with people in that role today. Right? So if you want to go into consulting, network with somebody who's in consulting. If you want to go into investment banker, get a hold of an investment banker. How do you do that? Well, LinkedIn is a great option. Right? You can go on LinkedIn and send a random message to just about anybody. You can search people based on where they went to school, their type of job, the company that they work for. You're not going to get 100% return. But if you email or send a message to 10 to 12 people, maybe hear back from 2 or 3, that's all you need. And here's what you want to do. You want to reach out to them and say, hey, my name is Ryan Barba. I'm getting ready to apply to business school in the fall. I'm really excited about going into consulting, trying to get a better sense of what that lifestyle and that job looks like. Would you mind hopping on the phone with me for 10 minutes to answer some questions? They'll respond. Hopefully you'll set up a phone call. And when you get them on the phone, ask them point blank. So what do you think makes someone successful as a consultant or as an investment banker or whatever you want to do? Right? What makes someone successful? What does the recruitment process look like? And how do you become successful in that recruitment process? Right? Learn those 3 things. And then when you're applying to business school and you're sitting in the interview, and if they ask you, what type of research have you done into your short-term goal? You can say, well, I talked to, John Smith and Adam Jones at McKinsey or this investment bank, and here's what they told me about what I need to do personally to better position myself to get a job in that role. That will really impress the admissions committee, that you are so serious about your short-term goal that you've taken the initiative to reach out to people who are doing that job today and learned what are the skills you need to develop, how do you get a job, what makes someone successful in that recruiting process, and so on and so forth. That makes you look really informed about why you need an MBA, because you can bank on that online research you did as well as the conversations you had with professionals in that area. And then, of course, once you get into business school, you already have the start of a network. You already have somebody in that role that you've started to talk to that you can maybe continue to lean on a little bit if they're willing as you move your way through the MBA process. And they too will be impressed that you actually reached out before business school to understand the career a little bit. So it's a win-win on so many different levels. Highly recommend trying to get a hold of somebody, speaking to them, and understanding your short-term goal in really precise, really clear detail. And then finally, number 5, prepare your recommenders. Right? This is really important. In the MBA admissions process, your recommenders are not just going to write a letter and then change the name of the school in the letterhead. Right? Each school asks recommenders specific questions, like essay questions, with word limits. So when you're asking your recommender to help you as you apply to 4 or 5 schools, you're actually asking them to do quite a bit of work. And it's important that you're giving them enough time to do that work and write those essays well. So if you're applying for round 1 deadlines, which typically fall in September, October, you don't want to be reaching out to your recommenders in mid to late August and saying, yeah, I owe 4 schools applications in a month or 2. Can you write recommendations for those? And by the way, each of those schools asks you to write 3 or 4 essays, right? Your recommenders, I'm sure, are very busy, and they're going to feel rushed if you put them on the spot like that and don't give them enough time to prepare. So give them that time to prepare. Right? Most schools release their applications in May, June, early July or so. So you have plenty of time before the round 1 deadlines, or even more if you're applying round 2, to prepare your recommenders for the process. Meet with them. Prepare what I call a recommender packet that talks about who you are, how you're positioning yourself, what your brand is. Provide a copy of your resume. Talk about how the MBA process works, maybe the intricacies between the different schools that you're talking to or considering. It doesn't have to be 20 pages. It can be 3 or 4, really succinct. But the more you can prepare your recommenders in advance, the better. And the more information you can kind of equip them with, the better as well. They won't be as rushed. They'll be able to think through their responses a little bit, and your application will be higher quality as a result. And then finally, just budget time. Right? Preparing to business school takes time. Right? On average, in my experience, when you're working through the essay questions, each essay requires anywhere between 4 and 6 or maybe 7 drafts. Right? It takes time to get your thoughts down on paper concisely, think through your responses, get this done well, polish that resume, and everything in between. So don't start your applications 2 weeks before the application deadline. And if you're applying round one, maybe recognize that this summer might be a little more busy for you. Maybe you only take a 3-day vacation rather than a 6-day vacation, whatever. I'm speaking hypothetically. But it's really important to give yourself that time. Carve out time in your schedule to prepare for this process, because it is really time intensive if you want to do it well, especially if you're applying to more than 1 or 2 schools, which most candidates do. And I would recommend that you apply to 5 or 6 schools and kind of hedge your bets a little bit between your reach schools and your quote-unquote safety schools. So these are the 6 things that I think you ought to be doing. They're all really important, and the more you can plan ahead to do them well, the better positioned you'll be to succeed in the process. Because again, you won't be stressing at the last minute trying to get these things done when your application is due in just a week or 2. So plan ahead. It'll make the process much less stressful, and you'll be more successful in the process itself.